Om Sai Ishwaraya Vidmahi Satyadevaya Dhimahi Tanna Sarva Prachodayat. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahe Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahe. Om Asato ma satkamaya Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya Mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Sai Ram. Welcome to day 5 of the Atma Chalisa Parayanam. So in the last 4 days, we have talked about the 9 steps to divinity. On day 2, we spoke about that once having understood the 9 steps, we must be clear about the goal of life, and also the goal of these 40 days. And our goal is to achieve self-realization or to experience the truth of our own divinity. On day 3, we spoke about having an intense desire or intense seeking of that goal. And on day 4, we talked about belief, that we must believe in the goal of life. We must believe in these, that we can achieve that goal of self-realization in these 40 days. We must believe in our guide, and we must believe in our own selves and in our own ability. So today we move to the next step, and all these steps that we are doing are in preparation for the experiential journey. So today we are stepping into day 5, and day 5 is about experiential learning. Vedas have given us a very beautiful way of acquiring the knowledge of the self, the highest knowledge of our being, the highest knowledge of existence. And that, since the Vedas talk about experiencing the self, the learning methodology that the Vedas have given us is an experiential way of learning. And we are talking about it today so that this is a method that we have to employ over these 40 days, over the balance 36 days. And actually, this method of learning is something that I have been applying to almost every facet of either acquiring learning or teaching. And I have found that these principles are so holistic that they apply to almost all fields of knowledge and therefore all fields of learning. So what is this? The first step is called shravana, which means listening, which is different from hearing, listening to understand, listening to the knowledge that is being passed on to us either through the written word, which is in the books of sacred knowledge, or any book, listening to the words of a teacher or a master or a guru, or anybody who is providing us with knowledge or with that information. Now, shravana or listening can also be internal listening. One is listening to the wisdom coming from the various teachers, but the teacher of all the teachers is inside each one of us, the inner guru. And that inner guru also speaks to us by not using words, by not using a spoken language, but the inner guru speaks to us through intuition. And over a period of time, we learn this ability to also listen to the language of the inner guru. So Shravana is to listen, and to listen exactly as it is being expressed by the teacher, which means that we are not employing any kind of our internal filters when we are listening. Because a lot of time what happens that when we are listening, we have some biases and prejudices. We have some opinions and judgments. We have a certain understanding of our own. So when a teacher is providing us with some information, some imparting us some knowledge, a lot of times we tend to hear it based on our own convenience and based on our own perception. So which means what I am really saying that when we do Shravana, we are listening with an open mind and not with a mind which is full of its own opinions. So that is the deeper understanding of what Shravana or listening means. Because hearing is something that, you are just listening to, but you're not paying attention to. But when you listen to someone, you are giving a lot of attention to it. Like today, as I speak, all of you are paying attention to it. So this is Shravana. So this was the first step that our Vedas have spoken about, where the experiential learning journey starts. Okay. Once having listened with an open mind of what the teacher is saying, the second step is called manana. Manana means self-inquiry or reasoning or reflection. So whatever you have heard, you are now analyzing it in your mind. You are reasoning it out. You're trying to go deeper into what you have heard, and this process of self-inquiry is where we start to churn what we have listened in ourselves, and we start to look at every facet of what we've heard. And many times when we hear something, as I said, that our own prejudices, our own judgments, our own earlier experiences start to create either doubts or start to create some kind of different understanding as opposed to what the teacher is telling us. Because most of the time, as we would have seen, no matter what religion we belong to, all the masters of the past, be it Jesus, be it Rama, be it Krishna, be it any of the holy books, whether it be the Bible or the Quran, or whether it is the Bhagavad Gita, these scriptures speak in parables. They never speak directly. And it requires interpretation. It requires the right understanding, the right meaning to the words of the master. And therefore, it is important for us to not jump to conclusions when we do self-inquiry, but to have these doubts and seek out the master, seek out the teacher to clarify our doubts. Another way of clarifying doubts that we might have on what we have listened to can also be through reading books, which is called swadhyaya. Swadhyaya means we are doing self-study and we are trying to corroborate what we have listened to, or we are trying to remove our doubts by reading the books that somebody may have referred to us, or our guru may have guided us to, or we feel internally, intuitively inclined to read. So there is an information that comes from there. So that is also a part of self-inquiry, because we're trying to clarify our understanding of what we have listened during Shravana. So Manana is that part. And Manana is often in the Vedantic language, it is often referred to as the chewing process. When a cow is offered some fodder or grass or food to eat, the cow starts to chew it, and it keeps chewing it for a very long period of time, right? So that chewing process is the process of this analysis, of this self-inquiry, of this reasoning, because remember, all the Vedantic learning was based on reasoning, on asking questions, on having doubts, because it is not about, in religion, we try to force things on people, but Vedas were taught on the basis of the experiential truths being brought out, and a dialogue that would happen in a Gurukula between the teacher and the students. And they would stay together in that surrounding. So this manana is a very important part, because if we do not agree with it, we will never be able to use it in our life. So it was important that our rishis, our seers, our sages understood that this wisdom and this knowledge can only be given, will be imbibed by the disciple only when they have done their own self-inquiry and they get convinced about the information or knowledge being given to them. So this was the step number 2, manana. The third step is actually the most important step, which is the natural culmination of step 1 and 2, and that is called as nididhyasana. Now, in the Vedantic terminology, nididhyasana is nothing but the assimilation of the teaching or the truth to such an extent that you have refined your manana that you start to be an embodiment of that knowledge. Okay? It is the refinement of the understanding of the truth as given by the master to that extent that you are living it. In simple terms, it means that refinement or that conviction that it becomes a way of life can only happen when you practice it. So knowledge is of no use if you are not going to put it into practice in your life, because that is the final touchstone where you will know for yourself directly that whether it works or it doesn't work. Because as long as you are gaining knowledge, as long as you are clarifying, as long as you are gaining doubt, removing your doubts, what you're doing is you're building conviction behind the learning. You are building conviction for you to put it into practice in your life. Because only when you're convinced, only when you're sure, only when you think, yes, it makes complete sense and I'm ready to go for it, is when you will practice it. And only upon practicing, you will know whether what you understood it to be, what your manana threw out, what your manana gave to you, whether that is true or not. So, as we say, the proof of the pudding lies in its eating. And that was the path given to us by our rishis. This is how they taught everything. Here, so that you are understanding it, that is called listening, which is called shravana. Then do self-inquiry, inquire, study, inquire, raise doubts, ask questions, clarify, till you have understood it fully. And then you get to the stage of putting it into practice. And only when you practice does it become part of you. Then the teaching is no longer external to you. You become the teaching yourself, right? And you start to become aligned with what you have learned. It is part of who you are, okay? So that is the 3-step process given to us in Vedanta. I have personally experimented with this first in my life. I'll give you my example. When I first came in touch with Satya Sai Baba, and I started to realize that Baba had this tendency, had this ability to make things extremely simple. He would put complex things in very simple language, and they would appeal to me a lot. And back then, when I was in Delhi, in the Samiti that we had, I was made as the person in charge for what we used to call it as study circle. So in study circle, every week, we would get together and we used to choose a topic. And on that topic, we would come and discuss that topic. And I found very soon that everybody would come and bring the teachings of Baba, and everybody would just repeat his teachings. And I used to wonder that, we are like parrots. We are just picking up, remembering his teachings, and he's just coming and repeating it. And each one was trying to show how good a orator we were, right? How well informed we were. But I found that there was no experience coming through when everybody was speaking. And I realized that I did not want to just be a parrot. I didn't want to show everybody that I had so much knowledge. So within 4 months, I said, I do not want to be part of these study circles. They said, why? I said, I want to live these teachings and I do not want to talk about these teachings. So what I did, I used to pick up one thing that I would like of what Swami would have said, and I would start to do manana on it. And every night I had a habit that I would speak with my wife. Before sleeping, we would talk to each other and she would tell me about a day, what she did, what were her experiences. She would, share about the children with me. I would tell her about my work, and I would also tell her about what was my experience of the day in terms of the understanding of what Baba has said. And I would tell her that I'm convinced that this, what Baba has said, is correct, and I'm going to try this, right? And next day, we would go about it. And, this became our kind of a everyday touchstone point. And one day, my wife, told me, she said, I haven't come across anybody who changes so rapidly. She says, every night when I go to sleep, I sleep with my husband, and every day I wake up with a stranger. I said, what do you mean? Can you explain? What do you mean by that? She said, you are talking about something that you've understood a day before, and the next day I see that you are already practicing it, you're trying to live that. And she says, you're moving and you're changing so rapidly, I don't even know that I know you at all, right? And she says, how is it that, you do not take any time to start practicing it? She says, I find it so difficult to convince myself. And I used to, joke with her. I said, look, to my mind, that's the only way to know. There are no right and wrongs in this world. And to me, life is such a big experiment. It's such a big stage. The whole of this world is a playground. And we've come here like children to play in it. And if I am going to be restricted by my own mind and my opinions and my own judgments and what the world has told me, then I'll never progress. I have faith in my master. I have absolute faith in Satya Sai Baba. And his teaching, this particular, words of his, I completely agree with. Now, whether it works for me or not, the only way to find out is by practicing it. So I am just trying to figure out what does he actually mean when he says that. And by doing that, because remember, there is no harm. There is nothing at stake. Life is not a serious business. In life, we have come to reach the highest level of consciousness. And if we are so blessed to find a teacher who has the ability to take us to that truth, why would you want to let it go? I knew when I met Baba that I had found the teacher of all teachers. And I was not going to let this opportunity go waste. He said, my life is my message. I said, my life will be your message as well, because I'm going to start practicing. So I got out of the Samiti. I didn't want to interact with all those people who were very smart, who had a lot of knowledge. I wanted to be a practitioner. And slowly I got into this habit, one thought a day, one thing that appealed to me. And I would think and analyze and read and try and clear my doubts. And when I would feel reasonably assured that I have understood it, I would say, okay, let me try it. Let me see what it is, right? If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But if it works, it is fantastic, right? So with that faith, with that openness, it is exactly the same as when we were young and we were crawling and we did not know how to walk. We trusted our mother. We trusted that our mother's hand, her grip, that she will not let us fall. We learned to walk. And every time we wanted to do something, whether we wanted to swim, whether we wanted to ride a cycle, whether we wanted to ride a car, whether we wanted to, go on our first dance, whatever in life, we always trusted. And we were always ready to try it out. We trusted, we really wanted it, and we practiced and practiced and practiced. As we learned to walk, we fell down, but we learned how to walk. We learned how to run. When we started to cycle, we fell down, we scraped our knees, we got hurt many times, but we never let go, right? And with practice, the magic mantra, as somebody asked me this question yesterday, the magic mantra is practice, practice, and practice. And there is only and only something beautiful or a beautiful experience waiting for you at the end of this practice. So let go of all the doubts, let go of all your fears, and be like a child who wants to experiment with this world, who has no clue, who has just this openness and a curiosity and wants to go and try everything out. I was like that child. I took my time to decide to have faith in my master, in my guru. And once I had that faith, I was willing to try all that he was telling me to do. And not for a day, I've regretted it. And as that started to happen, also because I was open to my master, I was never close to any other master also. I was open to receive what Maharishi Ramana had to talk about in Advaita Vedanta. I was open to hear what Swami Rama had to talk about the Himalayan tradition of masters. I was open to hear what Osho had to say in his own inimitable style of explaining that same Advaita Vedanta. I was open to any master from whom I could figure out something. I never said no to anyone because all masters have their own way of explaining the same truths. And you don't know in which way you are going to understand because everyone is divine. Once and slowly, as you become more and more open, you'll have the ability, you slowly start developing the ability to discriminate. And we will talk about all this in the coming days. I'm just trying to tell you that how these 3 steps of Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana worked for me, and how I am using now to teach not only Vedanta, but I, volunteer in the Gurukula here. I take, different types of classes. I have taught in the university in Gulbarga, and I have taught till now 6 different subjects. And I have never learned those subjects. I have never studied these subjects. And yet I have ended up teaching them because I adopt this approach to every learning. Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. And with that, I have found great success in being able to not only learn myself, to be able to teach, to be able to guide, to be able to share with people with great and effective results. So in the journey that we have embarked upon, I want you to remember this, at the end of every session of ours that we will do from tomorrow onwards, because today we have finished the groundwork. As I said in the previous days, we have created a base camp. We have a mountain to climb. We are all preparing to go on and climb the Mount Everest. At the base camp, we have understood the 9 steps, because these are the steps we are following. We've done step 2, which is yearning. We've spoken about that yearning. We've spoken about the goal, and we have understood that we must have faith. Faith that our goal is the only goal worth following. And frankly, this is such a beautiful goal that our Vedanta says, Atmano mokshartam jagat hitaya cha, that the best service you can do in this world to anybody is to realize your own self or to get moksha. Once we have done that, this is the best service we could have done to the entire universe, to all the sentient and insentient beings. So to me, it's such a noble goal to have for your life. It is such a worthwhile thing to have and to go for. And if we truly believe that we have come for this purpose, and if we truly believe that we have it in us to do it, and if you truly believe in your guide for these 40 days, then I tell you that each one of us, at the end of the day, if we remain committed to it, 5 days gone, 35 days left, there's no harm for you to try it. But if you're convinced, you will get the result. But if you are shaky, if you have doubts, if you have questions, and if you think you're busy and you cannot find time, that's okay too. Vedanta is very patient. It waits for everyone when they are ready. And if you're here today, and if you remain there at the end of this experiential journey of achieving the experience of your own divine self, and I keep using the word experience, we're not going to be doing anything which we will not practice. And if you're ready to practice, and if you are ready, then the divine is ready to present itself to you from within you. So with that, once again, I thank all of you for being here. It is a divine gathering. This plan has come from nowhere, and I truly know that the time has come for a gathering like this to take place. It cannot happen without that. So thank you so much. God bless you. A lot of love and light. Sairam.